This unit is called bonding. It is the fourth unit that we cover in New York State Chemistry. And we will be learning about how chemicals bond, the different types of bonds that they have, the way that they bond, and what is involved in all things bonding. So, to get started, we will be talking about what a chemical bond is in general. And a chemical bond is just a force of attraction between atoms. So somehow, some way, and in many different ways, these electrons cause an attraction between two different atoms. So the big thing that we have to keep in mind here is the term electronegativity. So some atoms have a very good ability to gain electrons, and other atoms have a very bad ability to gain electrons. And this is the main reason why atoms bond. What we have to remember is that the stronger the electronegativity, the stronger the attraction for an electron. An element like fluorine has a 4.0 electronegativity, making it the strongest attractor of electrons from other atoms. Anything that is low, 1, 0.5, 0.4, is very weak. And so there are going to be different reactions happening for the stronger attractors versus the weaker attractors. The goals of all bonding is for an element to get a noble gas configuration. What this reminds us of the octet rule, right? These two things are pretty much the same thing, just said differently. And which is that 8 valence electrons is great. Every atom is trying to have 8 valence electrons. Sometimes that means filling up the shell, the last shell. Sometimes it means emptying out the last shell. But 8 is the goal. On the small occasions, sometimes this means 2. For elements very close to helium with the noble gas configuration, electron configuration of 2, that is the end point. So hydrogen, which has 1, typically tries to gain an electron, but it can also try to lose an electron and empty its shell. Something like lithium, which has 3, tends to lose an electron and find its way down to 2. So there are some exceptions to this bonding rule, but most of the time we're going to be dealing with 8. Bonds and their energy is the next part of our introduction, and the main idea is that anytime a bond is formed, energy gets released. When a bond gets formed, energy is released. So, for instance, if I take H and H, 2 separate atoms of H, and turn that into an H2 molecule, I have formed a bond. I've taken 2 H's and I have put them together. This right here would release energy. On the flip side, when a bond is broken, energy is absorbed. So if I take this same reaction and I go the opposite way, and I split the 2 H's that are bonded into 2 separate H atoms, it's going to require energy to go in to the reaction, into the molecule, to split these things apart. You can see it down here on the picture, right? When energy goes in, go away. When energy goes in, it takes these bonds and it almost cracks them. That's what it's used to do. It snaps the bonds in half, and as a result, we're left with bonds that are broken and floating out freely. As the energy removes itself from a system, the molecules they come back together with glue, and they glue back up and become molecules with bonds once again. If bonds are stable, it requires energy to be added to break the bond apart, and that should make sense because of what we talked about up here. But the goal is to have a stable configuration. once a molecule is stable, it doesn't want to be unstable. So it doesn't want to lose those electrons or be broken away from what is helping it feel complete. And so it requires energy to be added to make the molecules do something that they don't necessarily want to do. And finally, about bonds and their energy, there's only one way to separate them. There's only one way to break molecules or bonds apart, and that is to use energy or to chemically react them to separate them. You cannot physically snap them apart. Their strength of attraction is way too strong. So that wraps up the introduction about bonds. They're what they're about, why they do what they do, and also the energy associated with them. Thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for the next one.